Welcome back to RGR, folks. Today we are talking with Matt Derrick again as it all gets down to the end of this training camp cycle. How are you, Matt?
I am hanging in there, trying to keep track of everything going on.
Oh, there's so many names and so many scenarios. There's a lot to talk about. And we talked about a number of them on the podcast on Locked On Chiefs the other day. I want to get to you a couple of things in specifics to me. I always do this. I get caught up in the way I'm going to build my prediction as though Andy Reid ever listens to me. And I always get to this point where I'm fighting about the last linebacker, the last defensive back, the last wide receiver. And I'm like, oh, what can they do where? And I always forget this. Who's going to be the returner? Because it feels like they want to get Mecole Hardman out of that returner role. Am I wrong? Or could we see some name that we don't expect?
That's a great question, because I thought going into this training camp that it was interesting that the Chiefs brought in some undrafted rookie free agents who were return possibilities. And you know what? I mean, the thing is that none of them seem like they've really, jumped in there and claimed a spot or anything. You're continuing to hear the usual suspects. I think that the Chiefs would like to get Mecole Hardman less work. But you know what? It's probably fair at this point to maybe look at how they brought, Tyreek Hill along. That even though he was a principal returner, his rookie year, he did a little bit less in year two, and then it just continued to get less and less. That's where I think you probably are with Hardman. I mean, I think that they will probably just try to find him fewer opportunities to return kicks. And then who do you go to? Well, when you've asked Dave Toub, I mean, he's usually mentioned, Byron Pringle is probably maybe the next guy up.
Right.
Now, a lot of people have returned kicks. I mean, have been receiving kicks in practice. We've been hearing about Clyde Edwards-Helaire being one of those guys, but I don't think he's going to frequently be back on kicks if he's your starting running back. So I don't see that. But yeah, I mean, I do think that there's a little bit of a gap there. And I will say this is an intriguing thing to take into consideration, which is that, the NFL roster rules this year are really complicated. And I think it's going to get really difficult for everybody to get used to. On top of the 53-man roster, you're going to have a 16-player practice squad, which is actually 4 more than was originally going to be under the new CBA. It's the COVID rules where they will add 4 more. And another COVID rule is that 6 of them can be of unlimited experience. Right. So that's why you're probably going to see a guy like a Matt Moore as the third quarterback on the practice squad. That's a way that you can keep him around. Matt Moore's not going to go anywhere, so making him available. I mean, he'll stick in Kansas City, so you can kind of take that opportunity with him. But the other thing is that you're going to have the ability to bring up to 2 players each week from the practice squad onto the regular roster. You don't have to. You can roll into a game day with 53 players. Mm-hmm. But if you've got injuries and you just got a position shortage, you can bring 2 people up. Is that something where you're going to see maybe a couple of return guys, stick on the practice squad and be there so that, hey, you know what, if Mecole Hardman's dinged up, if Byron Pringle's nursing something, maybe you're going to bring one of these guys up. I can see that. So I almost think that the Chiefs are probably willing to run into the season with maybe Hardman and Pringle as a couple of their top return guys, and then have some maybe young options on the practice squad that they can bring up if they need to in a pinch.
Now, that 2-man rule applies to the game day roster as well, right?
Yeah, they can bring them up for the game day roster that week, and then they immediately go back to the practice squad afterwards. They don't they don't have to go through waivers or anything like that. Just those 2. There's also a really complicated thing too, where teams can protect 4 players off the practice squad each week from getting signed by other teams, and that does not have to be the same 4 guys each week either. So that's why I say, I mean, it's going to be really complicated, keeping track of some of these practice squad moves and keeping track of the rosters going into game day.
I'm sure my brain will be melting because I think
mine's already is. You tell me, I can't remember guys' names half the time.
Just go numbers. It's easier. And speaking of numbers, we talked about the conundrum at wide receiver 6. And my initial thought was Jody Fortson, they put him on the podium. They've subsequently put Marcus Kemp on the podium as well, right? Did I miss that? I mean, everybody's been on the podium that's a wide receiver, it feels like. So is that one of those things that maybe do those rules continue at cutdown day? Can they designate guys? Maybe they can get Fortson to the practice squad by designating him. I'm not sure how it works.
Yeah, I mean that is kind of convoluted, but my understanding is that yeah, I mean you're still going to have to for well, it's complicated with the veterans, but for guys who are not vested yet, who don't have that 4 years in the league yet, they would have to go through waivers before they can go to the practice squad. Guys who are for the beginning of the season, guys who are vested veterans can be released and then signed immediately once you can start putting practice squads on Sunday. Mid-noon is the rule. Now,
Right.
usually guys agree to contracts before that. But yeah, for vested veterans, they don't have to go through the waivers. They'll be free agents immediately and can sign anywhere. But I would expect that the veterans that end up on the practice squad, I mean, that's going to be worked out in advance. They're going to know it, so, there's going to be some deals done there. And hey, you don't have to keep 6 veterans on the practice squad. I mean, you can keep 3 and have 13, younger guys on the practice squad. So the only real advantage is just that with those couple of guys that you can bring up on game day, you can send them back to the practice squad without clearing waivers during the season.
Right. Okay. So it's the initial hump you got to get over, and then you're
Right.
safe. Okay. So that brings me to a number of scenarios about guys that I think are right there on the edge, on the bubble, and they're all young. Jody Fortson's one of them. I think we talked earlier that it's more likely that it's a special teams oriented player. So I got to give the nod there to Marcus Kemp. I'm not asking you to give away your prediction yet. I know you're working on it. But another position group that really intrigues me is the same group of guys at CB4, CB5, CB6. How many do they keep? How many are there? Your gut instinct, I will ask you this, on Bo Pete Keys, do they put him on the practice squad? I think they can get him there.
That's the one that I have vacillated the most over about the last 7 to 10 days, because a week and a half ago, I would have said I think that Bo Keys is ending up on the practice squad because he had a late start to camp. He had the injury, so he wasn't really able to get onto the field until late in camp. And with that lack of experience as a rookie, and knowing that the Chiefs, they're going to have to play some corners and they're going to have to play some young corners early, is there a spot? But you know what? It seems like there's a lot of confidence in him, and and he got some looks in that practice that was streamed on Saturday. So, I think the Chiefs are going to have to take that risk. I mean, it would certainly be a risk to put him on the practice squad because he would have to clear through waivers, and if they don't think he's going to make it, then he's going to make the 53. That's the one I think that is really probably the toughest one for me to determine at this point. Because Traverse Ward's going to make it, L'Jarius Sneed's going to make it. I think that Antonio Hamilton is almost a dead certain lock for this roster. Rashad Fenton. I mean, there's 4 guys. So do you keep 5 with Bo Pete Keys, and then when Bashad Breeland comes back, what happens? So. Right now, like I said, I mean, it's probably going to be a coin flip to me when I get the projection done and just where the math comes out. But yeah, I'm 50-50 on that. And it has nothing to do with Bo Pete Keys being a player. It's mostly just to do the fact that is he ready yet? Is he ready to be a contributor? And do you take a chance on trying to get into the practice squad?
Well, and it feels like the beginning of his career all the way around is going to be about decisions made on him versus the consequences, not on what they see on the field, the way he was drafted, what they do keeping him. Let's go shotgun because I know you don't have a lot of time. Does this mean bad things for my guy, Lavert Hill? Does he have any chance? Has he made any noise, or is he a practice squad only kind of guy?
Yeah, that seems like the tag for him. We just haven't heard a lot of noise, and part of it was that he was dinged up for a part of camp. So that slowed him down a bit. But you're right. I mean, the numbers favor him that, the Chiefs are certainly, I think, going to keep a corner or 2 on the practice squad. I would certainly probably think he's got to be a candidate for that.
Yeah, knock on wood. We'll see. We saw Antonio Hamilton, right? Talking about his reps in 10-10-10 practice. He got a lot of reps there. What's your feeling as we stand here early in the week? We're not to the cut down section when folks, you'll be seeing this a little bit after we record it. Sneed, Hamilton, where do you strike that balance? Who's in the lead in your opinion?
Yeah, it's still really curious because if you watch what the Chiefs have done and the limited amount of time we've been able to see them go in their run-throughs on these streaming practices, it really looks like Rashad Fenton's an inside guy. And that it might, if they're going into Thursday night opener, that it might be L'Jarius Sneed starting on the outside. But if you listen to Steve Spagnuolo and you listen to Sam Madison, you're hearing that Rashad Fenton is, kind of their dual guy. So it wouldn't surprise me if this team opens up with Ward and Fenton on the outside in their base defense. When they go sub packages, you see Fenton kick to the inside, then it's L'Jarius Sneed who comes in. Antonio Hamilton's the X factor because they kind of see him as being a little bit of that Kendall Fuller. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if they see enough in him yet that he can replace a Kendall Fuller full time to be somebody who's going to get 60% of the snaps and mix a little bit at corner and safety. I think they're still going to see playing multiple guys. So that's why I could see Hamilton and Sneed both kind of sharing that spot. Maybe you see them both get some snaps on the outside. Maybe you see them even both get some snaps in that Kendall Fuller flex kind of role. Because I still think that's the key. I mean, if you've got enough guys, especially somebody who can cover out of the slot that you've got, and then you've got somebody that can move around and be flexible like Kendall Fuller, that's the key to deploying Tyrann Mathieu wherever you want. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't have that player, then Kendall Fuller, or then Tyrann Mathieu is going to have to be guarding people in the slot. He's going to have to play more corner than you want. He's going to have to play a little bit more just true safety and can't be that rover who goes anywhere that you can play at any spot on any snap.
No. I'm going to ask you about the linebacker in a minute because I always play too much defense is what everybody tells me. Okay, fine.
You want to talk about Anthony Sherman, don't you?
No, I don't have to. Anthony's gold. He's not going anywhere. Ask Dave. But
that is true.
At the end of the day, I find it really intriguing how little Daniel Kilgore's done. Like when they signed him, I was like, okay, for sure he's the swing guy inside. He can cover the bases. I'm confident in that. To this point, all he's done is carry around a helmet. Should I be concerned?
I think it's curious. He's been kept out of practice with what they term the old non-football injury, which would be an injury that occurred before he arrived in Kansas City. Mm-hmm. Been very vague about what that is. And even going into Tuesday was a possibility that he might practice, and then he's on the sidelines without his helmet. So yeah, I think that's a little bit curious, and that's why it intrigues me that like a guy like Jordan Devey is hit the free agent wire. He's a guy that's familiar with the team too. Is Kilgore brought in to be maybe a veteran guy that you can put on the practice squad and pull up if you need it? Because right now, yeah, I mean, would you be willing and ready to go into game day with Dan Kilgore as one of your top offensive linemen when he's never taken a rep with the team?
0 snaps.
I don't think you can do that. So no. Yeah, I mean, that's what makes me a little bit curious about where his spot is on this team, and if the team isn't trying to maybe be a little creative with what his role might be.
Yeah, I think they have some young guys that they want to get a good look at too. I hope that that's the way it works out. And then obviously the big question mark, I don't see any way they can go into the season with less than 5 linebackers. Who is LB5 right now? That's an excellent question. And I think right now, you would have to say that it's Dorian O'Daniel. And mostly just because of special teams. I mean, I don't know that he's definitely proven anything yet that he's earned that spot. But really, I mean, they've only got 7 linebackers on, the camp roster. And Omari Cobb is a rookie, hasn't, jumped out yet, hasn't really done anything yet to claim that spot. The other one that's intriguing is Darius Harris. And that's another guy. I mean, he's a holdover from last year. He was hurt as a rookie, just watched from the sidelines. But I've heard some good things, but at the same time, you just haven't seen that breakout. And that's part of, not being able to see practices this year, that it's kind of making it difficult to make some of these projections. But Dorian O'Daniel is an every snap special teams guy. So I think at this point, you got to say it's his to lose. Well, and I kind of feel I did a review of what he did last year, which was not much on defense. But the one team that he, I thought, not only played well, but they seemed to be comfortable in using him was against the Texans. So I think at least for week 1, it's got to be an assured thing. But
the X factor for me is how many safeties they keep, because you're going to see a safety playing as a linebacker a lot. So if you're going to carry 5-6 safeties, then it probably comes at the sacrificing a linebacker spot. I don't know if you can do both those. And the Chiefs are going to use, safeties as linebackers a lot. So, Thornhill, Matthew's going to be there. Dan Sorensen ain't going anywhere.
Right.
Tedrick Thompson seemed to have had a good camp. They brought in Adrian Colbert. These are both guys that can play a lot of different positions and do different things. Armani Watts is still around. So, yeah, I mean, if you keep 5 or 6 safeties, then now to me, you're looking at that linebacker spot as maybe being the sacrificial spot.
Ooh, man, that's getting thin. A couple of cleanup players. Rumors about Deshaun Warden. Do you think it's true that he could be in the mix to make the 53?
I don't get any indication of that.
Okay.
It's especially if like Mike Dana is healthy, then I think that there's just too many numbers in front of him.
Okay, fair enough. I like the prospect of Dana. I hope that he does make it. I want to see him. The guy that I find really intriguing that I hope they get to the practice squad, but I'm not sure that he's earned it. Has Tim Ward done anything in your perspective to get to stay with this team?
You've heard the name Tim Ward a lot when it comes to knocking down passes, and that should be expected because the guy's like 6'6", 6'7". I mean, he's huge. He's got a incredible wingspan, and so that seems to be his forte is knocking down the ball. But I mean, that is once again, it's a stacked position. There's so much depth there. I think it's going to be tough for him to squeeze onto the 53. But right now, I'm looking at him really, really closely for my practice squad.
Okay, that's kind of where I have him too. Folks, there will be a prediction. It will be on ChiefsDigest.com. He will put that out. I'm not going to say when, and I'm not going to say what it is because mine will be completely different and wrong.
You never know with that.
It should be right about the deadline time when we know. So, folks, check out everything at ChiefsDigest.com. Thanks, Matt. I appreciate all the time.
Thanks, Ryan. Good talking to you.
And, folks, we'll be back with you. We have more for you coming this week. My prediction will come out and, the whole 9 yards. Then we'll actually talk some actual football. So, thanks for watching RGR today. Appreciate your time. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.